A Spell Stutter, a couple of Vendilions, the usual suspects as far as spells go, Spell Snares, Force of Will, Swords to Plowshares, Brainstorms, a pair of counterspells, Sword of Feast and Famine, Batterskull, and some lands, of course, including Riptide Lab, Mishra's Factory, and Caracas.
The Phantasmal Image is important to note. Deals with Progenitus, all kinds of legends. Does all kinds of cool things. Yeah,
very good card.
Dylan Allen, on the other hand, playing Goblins. This is the deck we were talking about. We thought this might be a good foil to the format. It may very well be.
Yeah, I mean, Goblins has always classically beaten up on the blue control decks. We'll see if Snapcaster is enough to swing it in Brandon's favor here. It's the newest addition to blue. Dylan, of course, has all the usual suspects. If you're not familiar with Goblins, you can run through that during sideboarding, but they have started playing.
All right, so, and there's the Aether Vial. Yeah. No mental misstep to put a wrench in the Aether Vial plan anymore, so Brandon Nelson plays Force, pitching Jace the Mind Sculptor. Aether Vial, the super powerful card for the Goblins deck. Goblins is like a beatdown deck that kind of attritions you and has a lot of card advantage. Right. Imagine if you play against Zoo, except Zoo could just draw 4 cards with Goblin Ringleader.
Exactly.
That's kind of what it's like. And it's a lot of good synergy, Goblin Pile Drivers, Goblin War Chief. Certainly the dominant tribal deck, I think, in Legacy, maybe alongside Merfolk, although Merfolk not as much seen anymore.
Right. Also, the thing to note about Goblins is that it has 4 Aether Vial and 4 Goblin Lackey. It's key turn 1 plays that let it really cheat on mana, because otherwise it is a little clunky of a deck. Its spells are little higher costed than a lot of other decks, but if they get that turn 1, either one of those cards is very good for them.
Yeah, getting hit by turn 1 Lackey is one of the most dangerous things that could happen to you.
Yep.
It's silly to say in a format where you can just be killed on turn 2 by a combo deck, but Lackey, you just drop something into play and it's almost a gigantic indicator of doom. You get Siege Gang or even just a War Chief.
Exactly. A Ringleader, very good to draw between 1 and 4 cards usually.
So Dylan Allen had no 2-drop there. Brandon Nelson sitting on Misty Rainforest Island. Dylan Allen tapping 3 mana for a Goblin War Chief. One of the main cards there. Looks like Brandon is looking at a hand of Brainstorm and Snapcaster Mage?
I think so. And Goblin War Chief is really the card that lets Dylan Allen's Goblin deck run smoothly. It's really the oil that...
Brandon draws 2 Spell Snares and a Swords to Plowshares there. Swords is going to be huge. I was talking to Alex Bertoncini, StarCityGames.com ringer, level 8 pro, and he was saying that the reason why he doesn't think Goblins and Merfolk are good anymore is because Snapcaster Mage plus Swords. Dealing with 4 Swords was doable, but with Snapcaster Mages 2, it's hard to be able to deal with all that point removal.
Right.
And Brandon has that combo here of Snapcaster and Swords.
Yeah, he does. That's going to let him deal with Dylan Allen's best 2 creatures, or at least the first 2. Those Spell Stairs not very strong against Dylan Allen, so we see Brandon shuffling 1 away, or at least putting 1 back on top, maybe.
Yeah, I'd imagine those Spell Stairs are probably getting shipped. I mean, deals with Warden Weirding, which is not too relevant, and Goblin Pile Driver, which is reasonably relevant. But worth noting, Dylan Allen has 3 Warren Instigator. That isn't a card you always see in Goblin decks.
Interesting.
So Warren Instigator and Mog War Marshal, the other targets there.
Also 3 Warren Weirding in the main deck, 2 of which he has in his hand, I believe. So
not a great draw for Dylan Allen in this matchup.
No.
So War Chief resolves and will smack Brandon Nelson down to 17.
$10 draft number 3. Please come over to the side event stage.
And Brandon untaps, draws, and sees that Plains that he left there.
I imagine we'll see him Swords this, as he looks to be doing.
Yep, and he's going to Swords it now rather than on Dylan's turn because it makes Goblins cost 1 less,
right,
and doesn't want him to be able to cast anything for cheaper, where he has the opportunity to Swords it.
Say a Siege Gang commander after playing a land.
Dylan Allen lays a Wasteland there. Taps 2 of the Badlands, and here comes Goblin Pile Driver. Brandon Nelson ready with the Spell Snare that he capped just for that reason.
Instantly Spell Snares it. He knows that Goblins does not have many targets. Uses it at the first opportunity.
Cracks Misty Rainforest.
Brandon Nelson, I believe, only left with a land and a Snapcaster Mage. Expect to see Dylan Allen probably not use that Wasteland. Goblins uses a lot of mana. 4 mana for Goblin Ringleader is very, very much necessary.
And he couldn't really use it if he wanted to.
Right.
Brandon is playing very carefully to not get hurt. Look at all those beautiful unhinged islands and plains. No non-basic lands on the battlefield for Brandon Nelson. The thing I like about Brandon's deck is playing a lot of basics, which is great. 4 island, 1 plains.
Right. I think that's something a lot of Legacy deck builders really overlook. Basics are super important.
All right, now there's Goblin Ringleader. That card is a must counter for Brandon if he can. because that card could easily draw Dylan 3, 4 goblins, get him right back into the game.
Right. Brandon's sort of in a bind right here because he can lose both of his spells, leaving himself with only an island, or he can wait one turn until he has 5 mana to hardcast Force of Will.
Well, or he can Snapcaster Brainstorm.
Sure.
And try and find another blue spell, which is, I think, what he's probably going to do. And that way he can build his hand up a little more.
And it looks like you're right.
If I was Brandon, that was the play I would make. Yep, Snapcaster Mage comes down, gonna target the Brainstorm, and Brandon will Brainstorm. Draw 1, 2, 3, sees a Jace, a Spell Snare, and a Tundra. Perfect. Can put man, that's actually awesome for Brandon.
That is perfect.
He can put 2 cards back, Force, and then Jace the next turn.
Yep, and both the Warren Weirdings and Dylan Allen's hand don't do anything against a Planeswalker.
They do not make him sacrifice Planeswalkers, that's true.
Force of Will.
Force of Will pitching Spell Snare. Brandon Nelson will drop by 1 life because of the Force of Will.
Yep.
The side effect of that card.
The severe drawback.
Yeah. Well, we had to balance it, you understand.
Yeah, right. And the Snapcaster Mage 2/1 body, not irrelevant, trades with most goblins in Dylan Allen's deck, too. Not just a Tarmogoyf Trumper, a goblin trader.
Alright, let's see. And yeah, Brandon's going to untap and play that Jace. And what do you think? Do you think he's going to Brainstorm, or do you think he's going to Fate Seal?
I think he's going to play it safe and Fate Seal here, targeting Dylan Allen, because he's really not worried about all that many goblins, just a few specific goblins. Ringleader, Matron, and that's just about it, Siege Gang. But no, he chooses to Brainstorm.
He's seeing another Force.
Wow.
Swords and Brainstorm. Wow, what a good draw there. Now we can force whatever Dylan has, and I'm sure Dylan won't be expecting the 3rd Force.
Especially with only 2 cards in hand.
Yeah, I mean, what are the odds, right? Well, it turns out, never tell me the odds. He's got those sitting right there.
Yep. And still a 4th waiting in his deck as well.
All right, ships it back to Dylan Allen. Dylan untaps and draws.
Of course, no attack from Brandon Nelson. Wants to protect his Jace.
Yeah, I mean, he can just block a hasted creature, and the 2 damage is more or less going to be irrelevant at this point.
Exactly. So Dylan Allen mulls over his options. He does have the Warren Weirding to clear the way, but we'll see if he actually has a creature.
Taps 2, Goblin, or taps 3, Goblin Matron.
Do you expect to see Brandon Force here?
No. No.
Easy after you see him not Force it well. But no, Goblin Matron, not really a threatening goblin. Brandon will counter whatever it is that he gets.
Right, and he can't cast it this turn, so sometimes you should counter the tutor, but in this case you're forcing Dylan to waste his next turn casting whatever it is. In this case, it's going to be Goblin Warchief. And now Brandon will likely Brainstorm again and get further ahead on cards, and he has an actual card Brainstorm in his hand too, in case he wants to use that, although I suspect it might be Force of Will fodder. Going to draw 3, sees another Jace, Swords to Plowshares, and is that Batterskull?
I believe that's a Spell Stutter
Spray.
Not that strong against goblins. So that will be Force of Will fodder or Brainstorm fodder here.
Can always carry a sword, though, if we get that far.
That's true.
Right over the skies, over the heads of these goblins. And Brandon Nelson's hand right now looks to be Swords to Plowshares, Brainstorm, Force of Will. Nope, switches it up a little bit. He's trying to figure out what 2 cards he wants to put back on that Jace activation. Changed it up. So now it looks like he's going to keep Force of Will, Swords to Plowshares, Spell Stutter Spray.
And a 4th card. Definitely wants to keep that Sprite to pitch to the Force of Will. Doesn't want to pitch his 2nd Jace in case Dylan manages to deal with the 1st.
And keeps a Wasteland too. Ready to Wasteland Dylan Allen if necessary. And he just ties the ship back. He really just wants the 5th land there.
Yeah, might want to hardcast that Force of Will at this point.
Yeah, it's totally reasonable. Just pay 5, get to keep the other blue card in your hand.
Exactly.
And
there is the Warchief.
Warchief down. Brandon should counter this, I'm pretty sure. Or he has the swords, maybe he just lets it resolve. Alright, so there's the Warren Weirding, which will clear away the Snapcaster Mage. I think that's just fine.
Yep, he is hoping that this lets him kill the Jace. No, Brandon is going to spoil that plan.
Yeah. The swords will put an end to that.
Brandon has a few different lines of play here. He could flash down Spell Stutter to sack to the Warren Weirding, trade his Snapcaster for the Goblin War Chief, but instead, looks like he's just going to Swords the War Chief.
Yep, Swords the War Chief, giving Dylan Allen pretty much irrelevant 2-life. And his Jace will likely tick down to 2 from the Matron.
Yeah, but not much of a concern.
He can trade the Sprite for it, I guess, if he wants to, but I don't think I'd make that play. I'd rather have the card in my hand, a blue card for Forest.
Definitely. He has a backup Jace as well.
And just an extra card to put on top of my library
Right.
with Jace, too.
But he is thinking it over carefully, considering every line of play. And does play it to trade with the Matron. Wants to keep as few goblins on the board as possible, and takes the opportunity to wasteland Dylan's Wasteland while it's tapped.
Yeah, so Wasteland down, and Brandon draws
Think of Vendilion?
Phantasmal Image.
Oh, Phantasmal Image.
Phantasmal Image, Flooded Strand, and Jace. Puts back Jace Phantasmal Image, I think.
Yep. So now Dylan definitely on the back foot. Jace is quietly taking control of this game.
Plays down Flooded Strand, yeah. Now, if I were Brandon, I might just be Fate Sealing at this point. I think maybe you can get it to a point where you can just lock him out. Maybe not. Maybe that's a little ambitious.
Yeah, hard to say. I mean, the beauty of a card like Jace is both lines of play are just so good and are so likely to win you the game anyway.
Drawing cards is pretty sweet. There's a Hardcast Incinerator.
And whenever you see a Hardcast Incinerator, that is not good.
Not good news. Random Stalker, Christos on Twitter, asks, what mountains is Dylan Allen using? They're gorgeous. I believe that is the revised
I believe so.
mountain.
Looks like revised.
Got the white border
Yep.
and the original artwork. So yeah, there you go. So
The other mountains in play are, of course, Badlands.
yeah, they're giving Dylan access to black mana.
Swamp Mountain.
And
Is that a Snapcaster?
so he draws, brainstorms again, sees Mishra's Factory, Swords, Tundra.
Very good hand for Brandon Nelson.
And he just sculpted in the end right where he wants it to be. And I imagine you want to keep the factory in your hand, right? So you can play it out this turn? Especially since Dylan doesn't have Wasteland anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Brandon might have played that Tundra this turn. Oh, no, there's the factory. The Tundra came down last turn. So factory will be able to block that Gem Palm if need be.
Next turn. I mean, if he just waits a turn, then the factory can pump itself, which is pretty awesome.
Wasteland going to foil his plans, though.
Yeah, Wasteland going to make the factory dream a little less real.
So Brandon's 4 Jace the Mind Sculptor. He had one right on the turn he needed it.
Yep.
Definitely the key to this game.
And that's why he's playing 4. He just understands this is the card I always want to have.
Yep.
I am willing to play 4 copies of it, even though it's blue, because I can pitch it to Force of Will.
Or put it back with Brainstorm, too.
Exactly. Like, why not just play 4 of the best cards? Seems like reasonable logic to me.
Definitely. So Brandon playing 4, 12 of the best 20 blue cards that we determined in his deck. Now, Dylan Allen trying to decide how best to destroy that Jace.
Alright, let's see. Attacks with Gem Palm Incinerator, I imagine. Targeting, I think he's probably centered at Jace.
I think you have to. I don't think you can reasonably attack Brandon down from 13 life.
Brandon is so good with these control decks. It's really what he likes to play.
Yeah.
He has played Zoo too, but I played against him. I drive to the Boise PTQ sometimes, and he drives to the Boise PTQ sometimes, so I meet him up there. Back when I could play Magic, I guess.
Yep.
Down comes CGN Commander, and this I'm pretty sure
Definitely will be Force of Will.
Yeah, his will will be forced, and there goes Siege Gang.
Brandon only has to worry about one more Siege Gang Commander from Dylan Allen.
Yep, and hopefully for him, if he keeps drawing cards, he won't have to worry about it very much at all. Just be able to counter it.
Be interesting to see if he Fate Seals now to keep it out of Gem Palm Incinerator range.
See, I think that might be dangerous territory to go down. I'd rather just Brainstorm. Looks like he's got Vidillion Click in his hand to block if he wants to. Oh, ends up just Fate Sealing.
And
Sees Goblin Chieftain. Gonna put it on the bottom.
yep. Try and make Dylan Allen only draw lands and Aether Vials from here on out.
Alex Savarno points out, 4J sounds good in Legacy since you can't play it in Modern or Extended.
Yeah, I know Patrick Chapin tweeted a few weeks back when it got banned in Modern. 3 formats down, 2 to go.
Yeah, exactly. So Brandon Nelson plays Vidalia Click. Dylan Allen shows his hand of just Warren Weirding. So nothing too exciting happening there. Dylan might Warren Weirding away the Vidalian Click, and then the Wasteland away the Mishra's Factory, but then Brandon has the opportunity to just swords the Incinerator if he wants to.
Right.
Oh, no, Brandon does make him ship. Make sure that he draws off the click. I don't think he drew off the click.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, okay, he's fixing it now. There we go.
So now he has 2 cards. Vidalian Click is not a May. Your opponent has to draw the card, of course.
Yeah, that'd be pretty gross. It was like, oh, you forgot to draw your card. Otherwise, so many players would forget. I see that happen all the time.
Sucks, man.
Or the other one is people just always put it in their graveyard.
Right.
Man, shucks.
Now Dylan only with a Gem Palm Incinerator against Vidalian Click and Jace.
I'm going to serve it Jace. Brandon will block. It tries to activate Mishra's Factory, gets Wastelanded.
Yep.
Now he's going to block with Vidalian Click.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, just lets Jace take 1. All right. Or take 2, rather.
Looks like Brandon will be content to just Fate Seal. Basically trade hits with that Gem Palm Incinerator, but he'll be able to attack with Vidalian Click.
Interesting. So now Brandon brainstorms. It's like he's changing his line of play. I'm not sure if I like that. Because last turn he wanted to Fate Seal.
Right.
This turn he chose to brainstorm.
Yeah, I'm not so sure what his logic is here. Jace is such a difficult card to play.
All right. So Brandon getting in for 3 now. I think he drew Stoneforge Mystic there, which might be able to put this game away in shorter order.
Yeah, that's going to make the rest of this academic, as long as he gets Batterskull here.
Plays Stoneforge and Batterskull into Brandon's hand.
Yep.
And this should lock the game up in just a couple turns, assuming nothing horrendous happens to Brandon Nelson.
Right. He has the swords as well, so something ridiculous would have to happen in this game.
All right, let's see what happens then. See if something ridiculous happens indeed. All right, so Dylan plays another Revised Mountain. And gripping just 2 cards.
Yep. Not sure what 2 those could be.
A little low on options.
He'll attack Jace. And fingering the swords in his hand, but just decides to block, knowing that he can hardcast that Batterskull.
And it's perfectly content to do so. There's Mogwar Marshal. Hardly a threat for a Batterskull.
Yep.
I guess it might let him kill Jace if he wants to.
Maybe. He could also just tick up Jace to 3 as well.
Yeah, he wants to just Fate Seal here to make sure something weird doesn't happen.
Right.
No Siege Gang commanders accidentally ruin his day or something.
Yeah, assuming he sees a non-Siege Gang commander card, he'll leave it on top and cast the Batterskull. That looks like a Rishton port. Not a worry for Brandon.
That port is all yours.
Cast Batterskull does not attack this time. Realize the only way he's going to lose is if he can kill that Jace somehow.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, please take a moment, stop by, visit Mike Fair Service. He's got some really awesome cards I'd like to show you.
And Dylan, sacrifices Mogwar Marshal to get a 2nd Goblin token.
Sure.
Yeah, he's got 2 Goblin tokens versus a Batterskull and a Dylan and a Jace.
Yep.
I've seen this story before. It doesn't end very well for the Goblins player.
No, Goblin token's no match for a Germ token.
Yeah, one of these tokens is mightier than the other. It may read 0/0 in the corner, but don't be fooled.
Wielding a Batterskull.
Do not be fooled.
Will be battering down Dylan Allen's door very
Dylan
soon.
blocks with a Goblin token. But if I were Dylan, I would probably just pack him in here. I don't think he can win. And with the time ticking down, he has to be able to win 2 more games. These games might go kind of long.
Right, Dylan Allen's reasoning might be that if the match does go to time, Brandon Allen will probably be winning. Or rather, Brandon Nelson will probably be winning. But even so, I mean, there's no chance for him to win this game. Another Stoneforge Mystic feat, fetching up Sword of Feast and Famine for Brandon.
Oh, man. Brandon's hand, fully stocked. Even with Counterspell mana now, nothing Dylan can really do.
But he does have all the Revised Mountains in play. They're all on his side of the board. He has that going for him.
His Revised Mountains to match his Badlands.
Yep.
Mishra's Factory comes down, taps 2, and here comes Sword of Feast and Famine. Gonna equip it to Vendilion Click, I would imagine.
Yep, this will untap all his lands, in addition to dealing Dylan a chunk of damage, 5.
Yep, 5 points to Dylan. Dylan also loses his card, strips that away from him.
Yep.
Brandon will likely Fate Seal him, too.
That was the 4th Badlands.
Man, not the lands he was looking for.
And this should be it. Nope.
Tap the
Blackleaf Cliffs.
There's 3 Blackleaf Cliffs in his deck.
Interesting addition to Goblins.
Yeah, you don't always see that one. I'm not sure if I like it.
He really wants early black for his Warren Weirdings, I suppose. No other black cards in the sideboard.
Alright, Dylan takes a huge hit. Yeah, I don't like Blackleaf Cliff so much just because you will play longer games. It's important you hit your 4th land and so on, and you don't want to draw Blackleaf Cliffs in those situations.
I like the Blackleaf Cliffs if he's planning on siding in things like Cabal Therapy, Thoughtseize, things like that, but he doesn't even need early black.
Yeah, and as expected, Brandon Nelson finishes off Dylan Allen.
Yep.
They're going to head into game 2.
And let's check out their sideboards.
So here we go. Let's see what Brandon Nelson has in his sideboard. 3 Purify the Grave, 1 Elspeth Knight Errant, 1 Umezawa's Jite, 2 Wrath of God, 4 Path to Exile, 3 Spell Pierce, 1 Manriki Gusari.
Manriki Gusari probably not coming in this matchup, nor Spell Pierce, nor Purify the Grave. Only things we're likely to see are the Path of Exiles, Wrath of Gods, and maybe the extra Umezawa's Jite. Certainly he just wants more spot removal. We might not see all 4 Path to Exile, but we'll certainly see some number of them. What do you think he'll be taking out here?
I don't think Spell Snare is that impressive. It does hit Pile Driver, which is certainly relevant, but there just aren't a ton of targets. Pile Driver, if Aether Vial hits, which is worst case, Pile Driver can just come down under that. I'm not sure Spell Snare is really the card he's looking for.
Especially if you're setting in Path to Exile. That can both kill Pile Driver and other things anyway.
Right. Normally against beatdown decks, I would sideboard out some Force of Wills, but in this matchup, you have to leave them all in because of Aether Vial and Goblin Lackey, 2 crucial cards.
Really important to counter those. Sort of Feast and Famine can come out for sure. That's an easy cut for Brandon, I'm sure.
Yep, I agree with that. Spellstutter Sprite and Phantasmal Image might be able to go as well.
Yep, certainly the Sprite. How do you like Vendilion Click in this matchup?
I think it's okay, but if you want to bring in more cards, I would be willing to cut the clicks. I do like Click in general just for closing out the game, dealing with the card, giving you information, and so on.
Right. Yeah, I expect him to mostly make a pretty even swap of Spell Snares and a few of the lesser impact creatures for the Path's Wrath. Umezawa's Jite, perhaps Elspeth as well.
Yeah, taking out the Sword of Feast and Famine.
Right. And let's check out Dylan Allen's sideboard. We have 2 Red Elemental Blast, 2 Pyroblast. Those 4 will for sure be coming in here. 2 Sting Scourger, 1 Pile Driver, 1 Goblin King, a Tuk Tuk Scrapper, 2 Goblin Tinkerer, 3 Tormod's Crypt, and a Warren Weirding. What will we see from Dylan here?
Well, definitely, like you said, those 4 blast effects. And I'd also expect the 4th Pile Driver to come in.
Right.
But after that, I don't think we'll see any of the other cards. I imagine Warren Weirding is coming out. It does deal with Stoneforge Mystic, which is very relevant, don't get me wrong. The problem is if he doesn't have Mystic, you're just, like that game you saw, he's just gripping Weirding all game.
Right, 2 of them from the beginning of the game didn't do anything for him, really. He has a Tuk Tuk Scrapper and 2 Goblin Tinkerer. I imagine we might see one of those.
Yeah,
so
probably the Scrapper.
Skull. Yeah, I would think so.
Just deal help deal with Batter Skull. That's fair.
Right, Goblin King's Mountain Walk not going to be particularly relevant here. So
yeah, Tormod's Crypt doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, it's probably going to be about it. In terms of his cuts, like you said, definitely Warren Weirding. And not sure what else here. 4 Jump Palm Incinerator is a lot. I could see him shaving a few of those. But other than that, the Goblin package is pretty tight. He'll mostly just be shaving some of the lesser impact Goblins. Some of the ones that are best against aggro. Like maybe Mog War Marshal. But relatively easy sideboarding for both players. As you can see, they're both already shuffling up.
Yeah, which is always good to see. They're not staying in there forever. You only get 3 minutes. Sometimes players are a little luxurious, let's say, with their sideboarding time. But
people who've played the format not as much, but both of these guys look like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a pretty speedy game 2 here.
Well, maybe. We'll see. At least speedy to start.
Right.
It's a big discussion on Twitter right now about, we were talking a lot about Fate Sealing versus Brainstorming. Owen Turtenwald, the man who's been known to play some goblins, but also just be good at Magic, says maybe we like Fate Sealing a little too much. I don't blame him. I mean, I think I probably do Fate Seal a little too much. A lot of times people brainstorm when they should be face healing, and face healing when they should be brainstorming. Once again, we were talking about brainstorm earlier, how AJ wrote a whole article on it, did a whole TV segment on it. I think Jace is a card that could also have the same treatment. There's so many things you can do with it, and I think players play it wrong all the time. I definitely have played Jace wrong several times. I'm sure you have too. I mean, it's just a tricky card to play.
Yeah, I definitely trust Owen Turtenwald's opinion over maybe my own. Man, as a Player of the Year contender in his own right.
Yeah. Owen Turtenwald certainly in the mix in the Player of the Year race.
Yeah, I think he's in the lead right now.
Yeah, I mean, but Martin Usen not far behind.
Definitely. Owen agrees that people +2 too often when brainstorming would just win quicker. Interesting. I think most people just automatically +2 when they play Jace. They just want to win with it right away. But
yeah,
like you said, brainstorming, super powerful.
I mean, often I find when you play it, there are a lot of matches where you want to +2 it so you don't get lightning bolted or something.
Sure.
But after that, I mean, the +2 is a marginal advantage. I mean, if you're not doing anything, if you're not putting anything on the bottom, you're just, putting 2 counters on your Planeswalker and getting a tiny bit of information.
Right.
So it's not too high impact.
Not all that relevant, especially if your opponent has a fetch land in play.
Now locking them out can be relevant sometimes if you have, a board state where you're able to do that. But
right, but I definitely agree with Owen that when the board is pretty close to even, brainstorming is the way to go.
Polish Tamales on Twitter asks, how many Wastelands is Nelson using? The answer is 2 Wastelands. All right, here we go. Dylan leads on Goblin Lackey, and Brandon has the Force. Like I said, you have to force that Lackey. It is a super dangerous card.
Definitely. And he will be shipping the turn back to Brandon, who has two swords
and a brainstorm.
No white mana though.
That hand looks nice though. I mean, as soon as he finds a Plains or a White Source Tundra, he's doing some work. Oh, another Lackey.
Definitely.
If I'm Brandon Nelson, I just wait and brainstorm on my turn, hoping to find a fetch land. I would not do it at end step. A lot of players would be tempted to do it end step, but I would rather want to dig 1 card deeper because you just have to find that Lackey. And look how diligent Brandon Nelson is here, waiting until his next turn so we can see 1 more card.
For sure, the right play. Another line of play for him is just to play the Mistress Factory, but the Wasteland makes that not too good.
I think I would just brainstorm here, hoping to find a White Source. How many does he have? He has a Plains, 4 Flooded Strand, 2 Scalding Tarn, 2 Polluted Delta, Mystery Reinforcement, 4 Tundra, so 4, 5.
And 1 Caracas.
6, 7, 8, 9, 13, 14, 15.
Oh, so he doesn't pull the trigger on the brainstorm.
Whoa. Is he just going to get hit by that Lackey? Or no, he's got Snapcaster Mage in his hand, I think. Okay, so he's going to go for Snapcaster to block and hope Dylan Allen doesn't have an Incinerator. Oh, it's likely Dylan's poured out some of his Incinerators, too, I would imagine. All right, so there's Snapcaster Mage. Does Dylan have the Incinerator? Does not.
Brandon playing a little more conservatively here. He really wants to find the White Source. He wants to wait till he has a fetch land for that brainstorm.
Yeah, which I think is strong play. I would probably have the fear on being incinerated out, but
yeah, I don't think I would have had the patience to wait on that brainstorm. I definitely would have played it. Right or not, I'm not sure.
Just tempting because you can also Snapcaster Mage that brainstorm later on, where this way you got no value out of his Mage.
Exactly.
But you only have 3 draws to find a White Source. Maybe it's not right.
So Dylan Allen tutors up at Badlands. Likely we're going to see a 3-drop Goblin here. Maybe Goblin Matron. And maybe not.
Mountain tap for another Lackey. Plenty of Lackey going around. Now Brandon's going to try and dig for that White Source, see if he finds it.
Well,
what's that he drew? It's another Snapcaster Mage.
That is a very good draw.
Now I think he can brainstorm safely, though. I mean, he can still play a land afterward and block with Snapcaster Mage if he doesn't find a White Source.
Right, I mean, Goblin Lackey at this point, connecting on turn 4 isn't the end of the world. Dylan Allen looks like he's pretty low on cards. He has 2 or 3 left.
But I would imagine the cards he has left are probably higher cost Goblins, which just makes it dangerous. Yeah, so there we go. There's a brainstorm from Brandon Nelson. 1, 2, 3, see Sword, Stoneforge, and another white card.
Wow.
Uh-oh. Bad news for Brandon Nelson.
It's not good. No shuffle effects to be found.
Yeah, Path. He's going to have tons of removal, but he has to find a White Source, which he's not able to do at this present moment.
Right, Mistress Factory is going to get wasted for sure if he goes to block with it. But he has the Snapcaster, so next turn he'll be able to.
He just does that right
won't
now.
be able to do that.
I mean, Brandon now has a question if he wants to wait on Snapcaster, but yeah, I don't think you do. He just plays it down.
Right. Just needs to buy as much time as he can.
Yeah, does not want to get crushed by that Lackey.
So now Dylan has the option of trading Lackey for Snapcaster. We'll see if he takes it here.
Let's see.
And with a Rishadan port, he's going to have even more control over this game.
Oh yeah, Brandon has no more lands forthcoming for several turns. Is that another lackey? No way. No way. Lackey number 4.
All 4 lackeys make an appearance in the first 4 turns of this game.
And Brandon Nelson gets ported, and now he can't do anything about that lackey. That lackey is going to connect. What does Dylan Allen have in his hand? We're going to find out.
It could even be a boat.
I still have 2 events I would like to fire. I need to find 5 more people to do a $10 draft.
Brings Brandon Nelson to 19 life.
6 more people
and down comes...
If either of these events would interest you, I would love to...
Calvin Ringleader. Seems reasonable. Land. Wow. Missed on a Ringleader.
That is
still in pretty good shape.
Very unlucky. His hand is Goblin Tinkerer and Goblin War Chief.
Surprised the War Chief didn't come into play this turn. Although I guess... Oh, no, it makes sense. You want to keep his mana down. Sure.
Right. So now, Brandon Nelson finally threw those 2 cards that he put back with Brainstorm. And needs to draw White Source very badly.
3 more, going to 15. Yeah, War Chief. That War Chief is going to be good, but not insane. The fact that he hit nothing on Ringleader is absurd to me.
Right.
Brandon needs to find a White Source right here, though, or that Pile Driver is going to do some serious damage. There's a Wrath.
Wow.
But still no White Source is forthcoming.
Brandon Nelson needs a Mystic Gate badly.
He doesn't have any in his deck
No,
right now.
he certainly doesn't. And we'll see what Dylan does here. Crash in. And
I recommend attacking anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Brandon will drop to 3 on this attack.
So officially...
Or
wow.
I think that's lethal, actually.
Yeah,
yep,
Brandon scoops him up.
Brandon knows. Not very fortunate for Brandon. No White Sources at all.
So Brandon's shaking his head. The good news is he'll be on the play for Game 3. Hopefully he'll be able to draw one of his many White Sources.
Yeah, I feel like Brandon was really favored there. He got pretty unlucky to not see a White Source. We counted 14, was that correct?
I think it was 14, yeah.
Yeah, 1, 2, 6, 8, 10, 15 even.
Wow.
15 White Sources. Didn't see one in so many draws.
Brandon definitely built a really good mana base here.
Yeah, I really love his mana base. The 4 Island 1 Plains is excellent. I don't think players have enough basics in Legacy, and he's built his mana base so we can't just get wastelanded like most other players can.
Right, 2 Wasteland in Brandon's deck. Interesting number. He realized that that's not really a crucial aspect of his deck. Has to have access to them, but doesn't need more than 2. Yeah, players not going back to their sideboard, so it looks like we will see the same configuration. Brandon overloading on removal, Path to Exile's Wrath of Gods, Swords to Plowshares.
And there are 15 minutes left in the round for those who are curious, so likely the game will finish, but if we have another marathon like Game 1, it may end up in a draw.
Yep. Brandon's going to have to play pretty speedy with his Jaces. Might have to Fate Seal when he would prefer to Brainstorm if time's an issue.
Well, I don't think that'll be too big of a thing. I think you just brainstorm and then you maybe don't think as long about what you're going to put back.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a really great discussion happening on Twitter right now. Once again, one of the many uses of Twitter, just about Fate Sealing, brainstorming. Owen Turnwald basically feels like people Fate Seal way too much. Brainstorming is where it's at, because often if you win by Fate Sealing, you could probably just bury them in card advantage and win through brainstorming instead.
Right. Owen says that Brandon played that game really well. I agree. For sure.
I think Brandon played the first game pretty well. I think the only thing I didn't like is there was a turn where he Fate Sealed, which is ironically the turn I didn't like, right? And then he chose to start brainstorming again next turn. So he changed his strategy for some reason. I didn't really understand why. I think it possibly just realized he made a small mistake. It shouldn't be Fate Sealing. So other than that, I really like that whole game by Brandon Nelson. Playing tight, like I said, kid is just getting consistently better. Playing a lot on Magic Online. Basically, one of the best places to improve is online. Playing a lot online, playing a lot in PTQs. Did well at Nationals this year, making a top 8. Kid knows what he's doing. Played in several Pro Tours.
Wakester on Moto, for those of you who don't know.
Oh.
Very, very good Moto player. But yeah, someone just tweeted in, Nick Bareka just tweeted in that his version is almost identical to AJ's, and looking at the 2 deck lists, he's right about that. Very, very similar. Actually, these might be identical.
Are they identical?
Yep, looks like he might have changed the land base up a bit, but that's it. Sideboard. Actually, yeah, he copied the sideboard almost card for card.
Wow, it's pretty close to AJ's list. AJ built the blue-white deck Brandon liked, and made it happen.
Yep, top forward.
Brian Kibler notes on Twitter, he thinks the worst playability on Jace is actually the -1, or at least it used to be in Standard. I certainly agree that people were -1 a lot when they didn't need to, and a lot of times should just be -1ing. If all you're doing is just wasting a Jace by playing it -1 and it dies, well, it's not that exciting.
Right.
All right, Dylan goes for Aether Vial on turn 1. Brandon has the force again to stop that.
Yep, we'll see if he uses it here. I can't imagine
You've got to force this.
he wouldn't. What's his name? Counterspell, Force of Will, Snapcaster Mage, 2 Swords to Plowshares, and a Wasteland.
So he has this everything he needs. The question is just what to pitch. Do you pitch the Snapcaster or do you pitch the Counterspell? He opts for the Counterspell.
Yeah, I think I like that. I think his plan this game is just to rebuy on that Swords to Plowshares, just try and kill every one of Dylan's relevant creatures.
And he draws Brainstorm, which is going to be pretty nice here.
Definitely. He's going to avoid cracking that fetch for as long as possible, hoping to draw an island or another fetch.
All right, there's that Wasteland. Yeah, he really does not want to have to find a non-basic if he doesn't want to. Finding Tundra could be disastrous.
Yeah, definitely.
Although his hand might be forced now. Goblin Lackey from Dylan Allen means he's going to need to pull the trigger on that Swords.
Right. He has one more draw step. No,
okay.
he chooses to use an end step.
Dylan Allen has no second land. So Brandon knows he has to Swords that thing.
Right, and the fact that he doesn't have a second land, like Wasteland,
right,
lets him safely get a Tundra.
And even if he does like rip a Wasteland, then he still only has one land.
Right, that's fine. Definitely fine for Brandon.
Unless he has another Lackey, in which case could be terrible.
Yeah.
There we go. So Swords, Brandon Swords is away the Lackey.
Yeah, he's going to untap.
And draw. Finds an island. There you go, Brandon Nelson.
Great card for him.
And just holding that Brainstorm. I just like holding that Brainstorm for as long as possible.
Oh, yeah, there's no reason to play it right now.
All right, finds a Blackfeet Cliffs. And there is Goblin Pile Driver. Poultry 1-2 right now. Interesting to note, Snapcaster Mage cannot block the protection from blue that was designed for Psychotog, permanently messing things up. But yeah, there's Snapcaster on Swords of Plowshares.
Yep.
They may not be able to block, but it can certainly snap the Swords.
Taking Dylan up to 22 life. Brandon draws another Tundra. Knocks him down to 20. And right now, all Brandon wants is a fetch land.
And Brandon's the one on the offensive with Wasteland now. He Wastelands down Dylan Allen's Blackcleave Cliffs.
Yep.
Rough. If those were mountains instead of Blackcleave Cliffs, be in better shape. Brandon serves them for 2 with the Snapcaster Mage. Plays his 4th land, a fetch land with Brainstorm in hand, so he's got some options. Dylan Allen lays down Aether Vial, and I think Brandon's just going to let this resolve. Nope, he goes for Brainstorm in response. Hoping to find Counterspell or something.
Now that he has the fetch land.
All right, he sees Wrath, Stoneforge, Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, that is a very good hand for Brandon Nelson.
Yeah, he's going to put 2 back, probably draw 1, and then play Stoneforge and get Batterskull.
Definitely.
And I think that should probably close this out with Dylan stuck at 1 land.
Yeah, Dylan's not going to have time to fully utilize that Aether Vial. If he can sneak a Goblin Tinkerer into play to kill that Batterskull, he'll be in okay shape. But that is it.
Brandon looking at Umezawa's GT, another great card.
Yeah.
I'd probably just get the Batterskull to close out the game, but getting the GTA might be the safer play. Yeah, okay, GTA is what Brandon Nelson gets. It is pretty reasonable that Aether Vial is going to kick up, wants to be able to deal with his creatures.
Yeah, definitely.
I might be worried about a Goblin Tinker or something on my GTA, but perhaps that's not a concern for Brandon Nelson right now.
Yeah, I think I would have gotten the Batterskull too, because he effectively has 2 more removal spells in hand. I would think the Batterskull would be able to kill Dylan Allen from 16 before Dylan could get any relevant creatures in play.
But Brandon Nelson certainly doesn't think so.
Yep. He's definitely played this blue-white Stoneforge deck more than I have. And now he'll go to equip the Snapcaster, it looks like.
And yeah, ship the Umezawa's GT to the Snapcaster Mage. We'll drop Dylan down to 14, but those 2 counters, it could be all the difference. The board, 2 Vials for Dylan Allen versus Stoneforge and Snapcaster wearing on Umezawa's GT.
Yeah, once the GT gets equipped and gets counters on it, it'd be Dylan Allen winning from 1 land, 2 Aether Vials becomes really tough.
Let's see.
Looks like the Vials tick up to 2 and 1. As Dylan draws another Blackcleave Cliffs. See what he does with his 2 mana.
And there's Warren Weirding. That'll probably get rid of the Stoneforge.
Yep, I don't think think he's gonna fight over that.
Yeah, that is fine. You've killed my Stoneforge Mystic.
He's already done his damage.
Untaps and draws. Finds another Stoneforge Mystic.
Just in case.
Attacks with his Snapcaster Mage.
Content to just deal 2, build up the counters on his GT. any creatures that Dylan puts into play are just going to die very quickly.
Yeah, I guess if he can kill Goblin Tinker right away, so the only thing would be Tuk Tuk Scrapper. He brought it in.
That's what he'll need.
But even then, I don't know if those vials are going to get high up quick enough. And there's a Batterskull on the way.
Yep.
So I think Brandon Nelson has pretty much locked this one up.
Yeah, it's going to be real tough for Dylan to win. Brandon's going to have to mess up in a big way. And I don't think he's going to do it.
Yeah, Brandon has been playing really well all match. I've liked most of his plays. And I think he's favored right here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the ones we disagree with, we've just been wrong on them. So we'll have to ask him if we can get him in the booth here. The third land looks like it's going to be too little, too late for Dylan Allen.
Yeah, those lands not doing so much against upcoming Batterskull and 4 GT counters.
Right. And that Snapcaster almost threatening lethal. He can become a 10-power creature at any time.
And Stoneforge can do the 11th point too.
Yeah.
Although I don't think it would burn the counters on that necessarily.
No, I'm sure he wouldn't.
Actually, Brandon has another Snapcaster in his hand.
Wow.
So he could just kill next turn. Alright, well there's Goblin Warchief. We'll put a little bit of dead to that plan. No reason for Brandon to be hasty anyway, though.
Yeah, and he does have the one Tuk Tuk
there's
Scrapper.
Tuk Tuk Scrapper. That'll kill off the GT. And Brandon picks up the Scrapper. What?
It's like, does this do what I think it does?
Do I even know what it does? How many allies do you have? That's weird.
Yep. And we'll see what he does.
You might not even know what Tuk Tuk Scrapper does. If you don't know, when it enters the battlefield, it destroys. Whenever it or an ally enters the battlefield, it destroys an artifact, and then they take damage equal to the number of allies you have. Right.
Right.
It's not converted mana cost. It's allies you have, correct?
It is allies you have,
Yeah,
I
it's
believe.
allies you
It
have.
it
Pretty sure.
definitely keys off allies.
All right.
But he's dealt with the one artifact, but the Batterskull looks like it's gonna get him. Tuk Tuk Scrapper in his graveyard now. Only got one use out of it, of course. And only Goblin Tinker is left to kill that Batterskull.
And he draws Riptide Labs just in case.
$10
He needs that
draft
Snapcaster
number
Mage again.
4.
Yep.
We have found 8 players.
Brandon says
and
go,
are ready to
knowing
go.
that he
Please
will be
come
winning
over
this
to the
one.
side event stage. $10 draft number 4.
Yeah, Batterskull's gonna come
Please
down
come
this
to the
turn.
side event stage.
And smashing for 4 over and over again.
So now I'm looking at Brandon's board of Stoneforge and Snapcaster. Riptide Lab just the icing on the cake here. Brandon probably won't even need it.
Activates Aether Vial, puts down Goblin Ringleader. Flips up 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, hits 3 goblins, but I think it's going to be too little too late.
Yeah, those are all fairly low impact goblins. Mog War Marshal can chump block for a while, but I don't think it'll be enough.
I mean, Brandon has also assembled Riptide Lab Snapcaster Mage, which
Right.
is kind of like a build your own Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Exactly.
Just take whatever ability is your favorite and play it over and over.
Yep, he'll be able to play Brainstorm again, play the swords in his hand twice.
Down comes Goblin Warchief. Taps 1. Lackey maybe? 2.
Only one. Now 2.
Alright, now he plays a Matron.
Alright, so trying to claw his way back into this game.
See what he can find. Brandon's going to respond. Swordsing the Warchief.
Yeah, identifying the only real threats to the War Chief to give him all haste and make him cost a little less.
Right. And that'll make sure Dylan can't get anything too absurd. Can't play War Marshal or anything like that. Can't go get Siege Gang and be able to play it easily next turn. Although I don't know what those vials are at. I think they're on 4 and
4 and
3, I think.
4 and 3. Yeah.
That means he can put Siege Gang into play next turn if he had it, potentially.
Right.
And be able to get it with this Goblin Matron.
So Dylan, looking through his deck, passes that red elemental blast, I believe. So he did side those in.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Hasn't seen them yet, and in fact, probably doesn't really even want to draw one right now. Really only best at fighting Jace.
Yeah, killing Snapcaster Mage is not so exciting, especially when you have to stare down Batterskull as he's going to in a second.
And Riptide Lab there.
Yeah, and oh man, that Riptide Lab is going to be brutal. I think if I'm Brandon Nelson, I'd probably just return my Snapcaster Mage right here. I guess you definitely put Batterskull into play. So if you're willing to crack the Flooded Strand, You return Snapcaster, but that might not be necessary.
Yeah, I don't think I'd return the caster here because he has one already in his hand, and that fetch land is going to be more valuable with that Brainstorm in his graveyard.
Yeah, I agree with that. If he had one more land, though, and didn't have to crack the fetch land, I would definitely return the Snapcaster.
Yeah, for sure.
That way you just have an extra activation.
Someone asked on Twitter, what red-black dual land is that? That is Blackcleave Cliffs. Scars of Mirrodin. Comes into play untapped if it's your third, second, or first land of the game.
And Brandon cuts Dylan's deck. He got Warren Weirding. Okay.
Interesting.
Warren Weirding. Or no, he just played Goblin Lackey. Okay. Here comes Batterskull. Untap. And draw for Brandon Nelson. Players running low on time. About 3 minutes left.
Yeah, I think 3.5. So Brandon has to wrap this one up quickly if he wants to avoid a draw.
Now, the players probably have a couple extra minutes for moving on camera, but it's really not many. I think Brandon should be able to win in that amount of time, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Mog War Marshal can create a lot of chump blocking tokens. It can buy a lot of turns. And it doesn't seem as though Brandon is too worried. He wants to avoid not losing more than he wants to ensure the win here, it looks like.
All right, he attacks with Snapcaster Mage. And Dylan Allen blocks with Goblin Matron. I'm sure he attacked with Batterskull too. I can't imagine not.
And fingering his Ringleader.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, just chump blocking.
Ringleader chump blocks the Batterskull.
Dylan Allen just looking to buy time. Wants to find more Ringleaders, more Goblins. Just get as many Goblins onto the battlefield as possible.
Yeah, but it's going to be hard with that Batterskull essentially abyssing every turn.
Right. Dylan can afford to take 2 hits from it, but no more than that, and even that's dangerous because any Vendilion click can pick up that Batterskull and be a 7-power creature.
If the clicks are still in Brandon's deck, to be fair.
Right. But Dylan.
Oh, there's Jace the Mind Sculptor. Oh, Brandon doesn't even cast it. Would rather just wait on his Snapcaster Mage.
Yep, wants to make sure he doesn't die more than anything.
And there's Goblin Ringleader.
Yep. And says, okay, it finds Matron and only Matron.
Dylan's Ringleaders have not been very kind to him.
No, not so much.
He found 1 for 3 Goblins, but whiffed on 1 and only got 1 Goblin on this.
So here comes another Matron. Picks up his deck. Searches for another Goblin. Not sure what he's going to find here. Goblin Tinkerer.
Okay.
And Brandon has to read this one too.
That one is good at fighting Batterskull.
Yeah, Brandon, if he can help it, he will not let that hit the Batterskull.
Yeah, you do not want Goblin Tinker to hit your Batterskull.
Right.
Leave 3 out, pick it back up. He should be okay.
Yeah, for sure. As long as that Stoneforge Mystic stays alive. But Dylan does have a Warren Weirding, which it looks like we're going to see here.
Yeah, Warren Weirding. Yeah, we might just see him stack the Batterskull token and then pick Batterskull back up.
Yeah, and he has enough mana to flash it back in too, so that's going to be pretty ineffective.
Sacrifice the Germ. Certainly thinking about it, moving that Germ around.
Yeah, that doesn't do a heck of a lot for Dylan. Just makes Brandon use his mana here.
And there is Goblin Lackey, another one.
And Dylan gets in for 2, wants to bring Brandon below 20 life this game. Although I don't know what this attack's about because Brandon's just going to flash in that Batterskull again.
Is it just a trick? Like, I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, Brandon's card is in Chinese or some foreign language, so I think Dylan might have forgotten about that 3 ability.
I mean, maybe, I guess. Yeah, so he just throws away his Ringleader, gives Brandon a free 4 life. I'm sure he appreciates it.
Yep, oops.
It is the spirit of giving. And now Brandon can serve in for 4 with the Batterskull. Dylan just throws a Lackey in front of it. Or nope, throws Ringleader.
Legacy players, that is time in round 6.
And there's time, though we don't know if they have extra time or not.
I assume they have a couple extra minutes. Usually is that way.
Yep.
Brandon taps 4 and plays a Mind Sculptor.
And we'll see what he does with it. How much time he has left will probably determine what he does.
Yeah, indeed. All right, Germ for the Batterskull.
Probably, regardless of how much time he has left, he doesn't probably have enough to Fate Seal.
He does draw a Path to Exile off that Jace, and Path plus Snapcaster Mage will mean he can clear the way pretty quickly.
Right. Dylan has that Mog War Marshal, but he is running out of time. The power of Jace plus Batterskull eating a creature every single turn.
Right, I mean, Brandon can actually clear the board with 3 creatures with Jace -1 plus Path plus Snapcaster.
Right.
But I don't know how much time is left. These guys might not be able to finish in time. You have been right in the first game about Dylan playing it out so that if Brandon had inevitability, he could stall and do a draw.
Yeah, and it looks like that's just what he's trying to do.
Well, I mean stall not in the sense of like, you know, stalling the game, but stall in the fact that, you know, the game takes a while Brandon is winning, but the game ends up being a draw.
Right.
Not cheating stalling, different kind of stalling.
It's the problem with these blue control decks in any format. Sometimes, even though they're way ahead, they just can't close out the game in time.
See, that's what ends up happening here. I don't know how much time is left.
And Brandon going to flash back the Swords to Plowshares on the pile driver. Yeah, I doubt there are any Vendilion clicks left in his deck. The flying would be really good here, but probably not in there.
Yeah, I mean, certainly would be hopefully be able to find them. If Brandon would like to find them, I'm sure, with that Jace.
Yep.
But we'll see if he does. Draws Swords, Path, Force.
Wow.
All the removal spells he could need.
And with the Snapcaster, that's effectively 4 of them, too. So.
Wow. I mean, he already used the Snapcaster.
Oh, they're in extra turns
wow,
right now.
They're already in extra turns. There was no time extension. I thought there would be a small time extension, but apparently not.
Yep.
All right, so Brandon paths away 1. Or, sorry, swords away 1. I think this must be turn 2 then?
I'm not sure about that.
It was his turn, Brandon's turn when time was called, so he only gets 2 attacks. I don't think he can close the game out in time.
Probably not. He's going to path twice.
Path twice.
Leave him only with a Goblin token.
Attack with everybody.
Yeah, he's not going to have enough time.
That's that. I think Dylan Allen is going to force this to be a draw, even though Brandon Nelson had it definitively won.
Wow. I'm sure Brandon will ask for the concession, but I don't know if he'll get it in round 6 at XO.
I doubt it. Late in this tournament, these guys, Dylan would be happier getting a draw.
Yeah, the 1 extra match point's going to matter a lot for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, it certainly can make a big difference. Of course, the 2 extra match points will matter a lot for Brandon Nelson.
Yeah.
But. All right, there's a Goblin Matron. Puts it in. Brandon's like, yeah.
Yeah, and that'll surely find something like a War Marshal, just stall as much as possible. Or if he doesn't have a War Marshal, another Matron into a 1-drop, something like that. But, okay, Ringleader, sure.
All right, gets Ringleader. And not sure what turn they're on. It's either turn 3 or turn 5. Finds another man. Those Ringleader's just terrible for Dylan Allen. Gets a War Marshal, plays the War Marshal, plays a Tinkerer.
So
the board is sufficiently clogged up.
So he makes 5 blockers in that last turn off of previously no board. There's no way Brandon's going to have enough.
We have filled our final
Brandon, Snapcaster Mage, Riptide Labs, Snapcaster Mage.
Number 5, if you will please come over to the side event station.
But I don't think it's going to matter.
Started momentarily. Once again, standard Winterbox number 5. Please come on over to the scorekeeper station. With
probably
that,
going to Jace,
we
I'd
are
imagine.
done with side events.
Draw 3 cards, but I don't think he can find anything to save the game here.
No, I'm sure he
See you
won't.
all again very soon.
I mean, he can't deal 11 points of damage. He only has 6 points of power on the board, and even if he drew a sword and did some crazy shenanigans.
Yeah, Brandon desperately needed a flyer this game, but couldn't find it. Dylan Allen just,
Draws 3, puts 2 back.
yeah, 2 Force of Will's Brainstorm. Not going to do it. Attacks anyway.
Alright, yeah, Brandon attacks him with Batterskull, gets chump blocked by War Marshal. This is Brandon's last turn, I believe. Means Dylan gets a single more turn.
Yeah, even if Brandon has 1 more turn, there's no way he can deal 11 damage.
Yep.
Yeah, and
that's it. I guess it's going to be a draw. Brandon's going to ask for the concession, but he's not going to get it. I mean, maybe he is. I don't know, but I doubt it.
I wouldn't concede if I was Dylan Allen here. If these players were both X1-1 or
yeah, I mean,
like
for
that.
sure. I mean, if this was an elimination match, that's one thing. Which I think these guys are both 6-5-0, right?
I think so.
If they're X1, it might be a different story. I think you still take the draw there, though.
Yeah, I think these guys are from table 3 or so.
Well,
So
there's a result slip. Let's see what happens.
see if we can get that under the camera here.
It's going to pass back over to Brandon in just a second. Brandon, yep, looks like a draw, 1-1-1. So after a hard-fought match, a rather unconvincing